All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another great video. This one's going to be a little bit different, and I'm calling this one Story Ideas I Abandoned, for better or worse. And some of these ideas were great, and some of them were just plain bad. Let's start with the bad first. Number one, the Cat Diaries. As I look back over this, I'm so glad I chunked the draft of this, because as I look back over the memory of this particular story, it makes me feel like, in the words of a former politician, what were you thinking? The story was supposed to be told from the perspective of a cat who kind of has his own diary, and, you know, he talks about the world around him and his owners, and it's just such a bad idea. I got like 5 pages into it and realized how bad it was. Well, for one, how would a cat ever write? How would a cat, and the name Cat Diaries is just so bad. And how do you have a plot line with that? There was just so many things that were wrong with it. But when I got into it, I thought, oh man, this could be such a great idea. It was so bad. I'm so glad I chunked the draft of that. I'm very happy I did not keep that. Number 2 was Knockout. I really stuck with this idea for a long time, and I tried so hard to make it work. And it was inspired by my love of, I really like a good boxing movie like Rocky IV. You know, that was the best one in my opinion. I really liked that series. And I thought, you know, can you believe, people, there is not one single solitary boxing novel. And that is the ideal sport to make a novel off of, you know, if you did it right. And I was smart enough to see that. But it was just so hard. I went through at least 3 or 4 drafts of it. And I never finished them to completion fully, you know, but I got a bunch of stuff done. And it was, I just couldn't make it work. It was just too wooden. I couldn't figure out if I want to tell it first person or third person. And I got to say, I stuck with it for over a year. And then I just had to call it quits. I mean, at some point, you just realize you're beating your head against a brick wall. It's not going to come down. I hope I actually revisit that later. That was a good idea. Now, number 3 was called, the working title was No More Heroes, and it was supposed to be set decades into the future, right? And the concept was, what if superheroes were made illegal, right? And what if you had this like totalitarian regime and crime just going just crazy off the streets and nobody's defending themselves? You know, what would that look like? I really hated to kill that one. I really did, because that was one of my favorite ideas ever. I never got that long into it. I got about a good 50, 60 pages into it. And I got to say, I might actually revisit that in the very near future. It's just such a good idea. It's just, I couldn't get my setting right. I couldn't really seem to decide who was the villain. And I'd have to explain a lot to you to explain why that was a problem. And it was a little too grim, and that's not what I wanted. I didn't want a grim dystopian novel, because that's just depressing to read. And I just could not get the effect I was going for. So I had to just axe it. I hated to do that. And number 4, and this is the last one, was The Last Night. And man, did I put some work into this. It was the book series it was supposed to be a series, right? And it was a book I'd always wanted to write, you know, set in old medieval times, right? Knights and sword fighting and stuff. And I really wanted it to work. And the reason I had to kill it was because my characters talk like New Yorkers. And that may sound a little stupid, but you got to consider, when your characters talk like New Yorkers and it's a medieval style story, it just doesn't work, unless you're going for a parody. But it wasn't a parody, and it was I didn't do enough historical research, but I kept the draft of this. Now, this is the one book series I did keep the drafts to. I've kept the drafts, and I'm going to go back over it at one point. I really hope I revisit that. The Last Night, man, I really wanted that to be my first book, but unfortunately that honor goes to Infected. But anyway, that's just some of the various book projects I've been messing around with over the years, from the good ideas to the one really bad idea. Really, the Cat Diaries is such a bad idea. I will never come back to that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this sort of mildly humorous video. Hey, I'm a human being just like you. I've had my own setbacks and failures, you know? And so anyway, if you enjoyed this, just leave me a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe.